Hi-de-ho, YouTubers. A real good friend of mine here in northern Arizona has the phrase off-grid as part of his YouTube channel name. And he posted a video a while back, and the internet trolls came out of the woodwork. Talk about OMG, you cannot be living off-grid with your family because you have food from the grocery store and you're cooking on a propane stove. Well, I wish the trolls would Google up some phrases before they make comments sometimes. If you Google the phrase off-grid living, you're going to find about I don't know, maybe a dozen dictionary definitions of off-grid living, quote unquote. And most of those definitions revolve around the concept of living without one or more of a certain list of public utilities. My definition of off-grid living is a lot more simple than that. I just say, well, that means you don't have any pipes or wires coming into your place. And you can live as simply or as comfortably as you like. You don't have to live like a caveman or like a hermit in the woods in a mud hut that you built somewhere in the middle of nowhere. Living off-grid simply means that you're not relying on public utilities. And what I want to talk to you guys about now, my last video, which was a while ago, sorry, we've had some stuff going on, lost one of our fur babies the other day, and I've had sciatica, couldn't get out of bed for days at a time, and it's been busy, but here I am. What I want to talk to you about, the last video I did, I tried to describe how preparing and building up a store of commercially sold freeze-dried food is a little tough. Costs a lot of money, and who has that much storage space? Now, I'm not saying freeze-dried food is a no-go. We have our own home freeze dryer. But relying on it is another thing. And the point I want to make, anyhow, is that living, quote-unquote, off-grid makes you more resilient to what the future might bring, because we've got some serious locomotives bearing down on us, and you know that. I might do a video. I tend to think of these things in probabilities, and maybe I'll do a video sometime soon and try to give you what I think the most probable scenarios are for our future. But living off-grid makes you more resilient to those probabilities. Here are some examples. Now, we've been off-grid here in northern Arizona for, we're going on 3 years now. It's been a heck of a lot of work, and it always is. Don't think that once you move off-grid, you're going to sit on your couch and eat bonbons, because you're going to work your tail off. Back in, I think it was the first part of April, wasn't it? When the eclipse of the sun happened. Oh my goodness, the prepper channels went all a tither, some of them, about how the eclipse was going to knock out the power grid here in the U.S. and everybody was going to die. It didn't happen. I told Mrs. Goat Hollow at the time, hey, it's just another Y2K. But there are some things that could cause the power grid to go out. And if you're sitting on your couch in mom and dad's basement in the city somewhere, yeah, you're going to suffer. The nearest power pole to our house it's about 4 miles away, and we couldn't see spending hundreds of thousands of dollars for the privilege of having a monthly bill and then being subject to power outages. So we decided to go solar. We have right about 4 kilowatts or 4,000 watts worth of solar panels. We have a large bank of lithium iron phosphate batteries. I can get my mouth to work today. And they generally provide all the power we need. That's another video I'll do for you soon, is everything we run on solar power. As you can see in the view screen or in the video right now, it's really cloudy. It's been cloudy most of the day. And yeah, I am going to have to run a generator for a little bit this evening to get us caught back up. But we're doing pretty well, and it's been close to 90 all day. And I don't know if you can hear it, but our evaporative cooler is cranking away, trying to keep the house cool. It does a good job. It's 90 outside, and the cooler keeps it about 75, mid-70s in the house. Not too shabby, pretty comfortable. So let's go over the rules of threes. Now, a lot of the preppers and survivalists have what they call the rules of threes. And that says that without shelter, good shelter in inclement weather, when it's really, really hot out or really, really cold, you can last about 3 hours. We have a small house. It's not terribly big. With the loft, I think it's 1,200 square feet. We have enough firewood on our property to last easily the rest of our lives. There's a lot of dead wood out there, branches that have broken off of these trees, etc. So we don't have to worry about heating our house. As long as we get good sun with the cooler, we can cool it and keep it quite comfortable inside. The next thing the survivalists talk about in the rules of threes is water. And I thought about doing a video companion to my freeze-dried food video. The government says you need a gallon per person per day to survive. The average U.S. Usage of water is 100 gallons per person per day. We don't water anything, but we water the garden, but we don't have a lawn to water, etc. So Mrs. Goat Hollow and I use about 20 gallons per person per day. a fifth of the national average. Right now, we have in our storage tanks about 5,000 gallons of water. And as you can see over that mountain there, it looks like we might get a good rainstorm this evening, which means we might get a little more water. And we catch all the water off of our roof. We have about 2,000 square feet of roof, including the covered deck that we have. And so that every inch of water, of rain that falls, we can collect about 1,200 gallons. We'll see how I do. Right now in the tanks below the house, I've got about 1,400, maybe 1,600 gallons. And then a bunch more up on the hill. Back to the rules of threes. You have supposedly 30 days, which is still a 3, I guess, to live without food. And I would say you're going to get pretty dang weak after about 2 to 3 weeks. That bucket of freeze-dried food that I showed you in my last video, the calorie counts were awful. I think the highest meal in that thing is 300 calories. If you're a male and you're working hard, like I usually do around here, you need about 3,000 calories a day to stay energized. We're getting the infrastructure in place this year. We had trouble. We got a few things planted, but next year I want to be a long ways down the road towards my goal of growing 80 to 90% of our own fruits and vegetables. We already produce 100% of the eggs that we can eat, and hopefully I can barter for some other protein sources in the future. We're softies and we just cannot butcher our own animals. They're all pets to us. But that's okay. My pets out there poop breakfast, and that's a good thing. We're in the middle of nowhere here, being off-grid. I said I think it's 4 miles to the nearest power pole we can use power from. It is a 50-mile round trip from here to get a gallon of milk. And yeah, we go to the grocery store. The actual grocery store that we have to go to is 120 miles round trip. We can get milk at, there's a Family Dollar, 50 miles round trip. So we do that. And yet we're still off grid. We have vehicles that can go back and forth. We fill them up with gas when we get to town. Home Depot, Walmart, all those places are at least 120 miles round trip. So we're dang remote. And I think, I looked it up once. I'm trying to remember. The county that we live in here in Arizona has a population density, and that's with a couple of big cities, of, I think it was 26 people per square mile. It's really rural. Like I said, there are a couple of cities, and one of those big cities is the one my friend goes to get his groceries, even though he lives off-grid. We get our groceries in a different county because it's closer for us. But with a couple of larger cities and a bunch of small towns, most of the population lives in those areas. It is really sparse here where we live. Our nearest full-time neighbor to our house is about 3/4 of a mile away. So we're pretty far out here. About as rural in the lower 48 states as you can get. Which means in an uncertain future that we have a better chance of having good OPSEC, which is what the preppers call operational security. And Arizona, the state we live in, has pretty lax laws when it comes to firearms. It's a constitutional carry state. You can open carry anywhere you want in the state, and that's a good thing because crime's getting worse and worse all over. Okay, well, I think, how long is it? I've been 15 minutes, 16 almost. That's about long enough to hold your attention. Please subscribe and hit the like button and all that stuff. And I'll see you next time, and we'll get through this.